So this afternoon, I'm going to be presenting Pacuare Lodge and Lapa Rios Lodge from BOENA Wilderness Lodges. As you can see from this map, BOENA now have actually five lodges, but we are representing just four of those lodges at the moment, all over Costa Rica, kind of spanning the different corners of Costa Rica. So kind of creating a perfect itinerary for guests who want to try some high-end wilderness lodges in the country. We also represent Finca Rosa Blanca, the coffee farm finca in the hills above San Jose, but I'm going to concentrate on Pacuare and Lapa Rios this afternoon. I hope everybody's keeping warm. It is incredibly chilly outside in Bristol today, but unfortunately no snow here. And we know I've got some people from Germany and maybe Switzerland and Austria on the call today. So I hope everybody is keeping warm and feeling festive. Okay, I'm going to start with Pacuare. Bear with me just one moment. Okay, so as many of you will already know, Pacuare Lodge is one of the most well-known lodges in Central America. It is located on the shores of the Pacuare River in central Costa Rica. The Pacuare River is one of the best rafting rivers in the world, and Roberto and Luz, who own Pacuare Lodge, have been living in this area since they were born. They're from this area. They're both from Tortuga, and Roberto, who started the lodge many years ago, probably about 25 years ago, he built just a small shack for him and his rafting buddies and the people he took rafting on this river many years ago, and then developed it into this, so many years later, into this wonderful luxury eco lodge with 20 suites and around this incredible private reserve of 340 hectares. So this is the Pacuare River. As I mentioned, it's one of the best rafting rivers in the world. And it has parts of it which are kind of more adventurous than others, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And yeah, it's surrounded by this incredibly lush forest. So this amazing rainforest that comes over the central valleys and over the mountains in this area. So it is very mountainous. So when you're arriving to Pacuare, you're leaving San Jose hotels at around 6:30 in the morning. Now, the transfers that are included with the Pacuare package go from certain hotels in San Jose. If you're staying slightly outside, like at Finca Rosa Blanca, then an extra transfer is needed. So then you're driving 1.5 hours further south from San Jose towards Turrialba. You stop for a breakfast in the Central Highlands, a typical Costa Rican breakfast. And then it's another 1.5 hours on to the put-in point near Linda Vista. What they call the put-in point is where you start your rafting. So it's raft in, raft out lodge. You're there with all of the guides. You're taken through all the different kind of safety procedures. You're told what to wear, what to bring with you. Your luggage all goes on a separate raft and big dry bags. There are luggage restrictions for Pacuare, so that's something to bear in mind and something your DMC will certainly know as well. And so guests can leave their luggage at their hotels in San Jose or with their DMCs. And then it's 1.5 hours gentle rafting to the lodge on grades 2 to 3. The river has these beautiful wide, it's beautifully wide with banks of forest on either side. You're stopping to see waterfalls along the way. It's actually a really lovely gentle ride. The rafting out is about 3.5 hours. I'll go over that a bit at the end of the Pacuare bit of the presentation. So it's maximum 6 people per raft. And like I said, you're all with an experienced guide who speaks perfect English, who really preps you to kind of enjoy the ride and kind of be immersed in your surroundings. Now, if people don't necessarily want to do the rafting, or perhaps they're less able, or you have children under the age of 11, then you're looking at arriving at the lodge via road, or for the guests who have a slightly more kind of budget, there are helicopters from San Jose, which is only 20 minutes. And also they could take charter flight to Siquirres and then take a road transfer on to the lodge. Now, even though I say there's road transfers available, the lodge actually isn't accessible by road. They get to a certain point where it's no longer accessible. So you're going on a dirt track and you are then taken across the river by this small cable car, which is quite exciting. That's how all of the resources actually arrives at the lodge because they can't get there by road. So it's a really exciting journey in itself. So this is your arrival point when you get into the lodge. You know, all of the safety equipment is there, all the helmets and the life jackets, and it's a really kind of fun, exhilarating way to arrive. And what's really amazing about this is that when you're with your guides on the rafts, you then find that they are the ones who take you up into the reserve to go on the zip lines or the canyoning, or and then they're serving you in the restaurant as well. So it's got this really lovely, familiar feel to it. So the lodge itself has 20 suites and villas set within this beautiful, lush tropical and subtropical forest. And as I mentioned, they've got this large private reserve up in the hills behind the lodge. I'll start with the Jaguar Villa, which is the highest category of villa, which is 350 square meters, which is huge, lovely plunge pool. This is the master bedroom. You can still hear all the water from the river. Definitely not very intrusive there because you're surrounded by jungle at the same time. You've also got this really gorgeous large living space as well. The villa can accommodate up to 5 people with extra beds and sofa beds added into this extra room. And of course, it's got this really lovely little secret dining area out across the bridge on this platform. The next category of room is this one canopy villa. So the canopy villa used to be called the honeymoon suite. It's been recently renovated and made larger to incorporate another kind of side room to it, with its own incredible suspension bridge. It's got its own little private access that the buggies can take guests up to, as well as its own footpath. So yeah, this really beautiful, colourful master bedroom and the side room, which can be cordoned off by the sliding doors. And as you can see, it has its own plunge pool, and also you can see from this perspective the amazing hanging bridge that goes out to the platform on the tree beyond. And this looks well over the whole property, and then the valley and the mountains across the river, which is absolutely spectacular. There are then 7 Linda Vista villas, also incredibly spacious, with this large living area where you can put 2 extra beds if needed. Again, they all have their private plunge pool. Here on this image, you can see that the furnishings here behind the bed, they are all made by the Pacuare Indians. So the property actually contract the Pacuare Indian community to make a lot of their furnishings, not only for Pacuare, but for their other lodges as well. Very large bathrooms. This category and the 2 above also have the bathtubs outside. And there's beautiful terraces with a lovely plunge pool that is right by the river. Then you have 4 Riverview suites, which are set slightly back from the rest of the suites, with a little terrace. Again, with just 1 master bedroom, but still very comfortable, really spacious, with this lovely terrace and big wide hammock on them. And then 7 garden suites, and these are located down near the rest of the amenities. So this is where you have a kind of excursion area and the restaurant. And these rooms have 1 king-size bed, and some of them actually have twin beds as well. These are the only rooms with twin beds. So they're great for families. And they've got a slightly smaller outdoor shower, but still they've got half in, half out bathroom. One new thing that has happened at Pacuare is their restaurant. So they have recently refurbished the whole of the restaurant area, making it slightly more kind of upmarket, slightly more polished. They've got this lovely, beautiful decking area. They've brought the wine cellar up from, well, a cellar essentially, into an air-conditioned unit. And then they've made more decking out in the gardens as well. With Pacuare has always wanted to kind of create some very special experiences for their guests. So they have got these private dining areas around the gardens, around the lodge, and you can have guests come and sit by the river. These are charged at slightly extra, so that is something you might need to find out from your DMC, or I can find it out for you and send it in the follow-up. The food at Pacuare is surprisingly, well, I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary. It's excellent. It's all organic food, which is the rule, not the exception. And Luce and Roberto, if you've met them, you will already know that they're big foodies themselves. So they really are very discerning about who they work with in terms of who is creating the dishes, who is curating the menus, to make sure that everything is fresh, organic, free range, and as kind of innovative as can be. They have got a normal menu with lots of different varieties, but they have started creating plant-based menus for all of their lodges. Luce and Roberto recently went vegetarian. They were very conscious about the extensive farming in well, everywhere around the world. Even though they do source all of their meat locally, they're still quite conscious of this. And when I stayed at Tortuga and Monteverde Lodge recently in April, I'm not vegetarian personally, but I was inclined to just choose something from the plant-based menu anyway, because it was so extensive and there were so many interesting options on there. So it was really testament to them investing in that part of their sustainability kind of program. So the included excursions, everything is included at Pacuare, so the transfers and the food, alcohol is extra. And I think if you want to do any extra rafting or go out on what they call their duckies, which are kind of inflatable kayaks, that is also extra as well. But the main excursions in their reserve are included. And these include ancient trails and hidden waterfall hikes. Some of these can be self-guided, but most of them are with guides. Dawn bird watching walks around the property with their resident ornithologists. There's about 150 species of birds within the property itself, so you're not short of a good bird spotting opportunity, which is really quite amazing. They have binoculars for everybody as well, and the ornithologist, the guide, will take out a telescope for people to see the birds better. If you want to do something slightly more active, you can hike up into the reserve to the local Cabacá village and learn about their culture. There is a half-day and full-day hike options for this. And many of the staff from the lodge actually come from villages like this one. It can be quite a challenging hike. You are given wellies to wear for the hike, so passengers don't need to worry about taking suitable footwear with them. And it is quite muddy with steep paths, but it's really worthwhile. The Cabacá are generally quite private people, and the guides will always be respectful of their space. And so they don't tend to actually go into their homes or the village themselves. They have this dedicated area for tourists to go to learn about all of their weaving techniques and their handicraft and pieces that they've actually been making for generations anyway. One thing about this, I would say, is that there aren't that many places within Costa Rica where you get that interaction with an indigenous culture. The Cabacá Indians have been living in this region for 3,000 years. And while Costa Rica is one of those places, I think it's something like has the most amount of national parks than any other country in the world in terms of kind of space of their land. The wildlife is incredible, the bird life is incredible, the biodiversity is amazing. The richness of like the old culture is there are not that many opportunities to do that. So that is why I think it's like a really important thing to point out for Pacuare, that you get this opportunity to see that real living history of Costa Rica. And to add to that, there's actually an extra excursion called the Cabacá Culinary Experience. And this is where guests can try authentic culinary treats from the Cabacá community. They're taught how to kind of cook them, how they prepare them, especially for things like ceremonies and special occasions. So this is a really lovely private experience that guests can do extra. And then a lot of people come to Pacuare specifically for the canopy excursion, so the zip lining and the canyoning. Within their own private reserve, they have 10 amazing zip line wires and 11 platforms, and they're absolutely extraordinary. I've zip lined a lot in different places in Costa Rica as well as South America, and I absolutely loved this. I mean, first of all, you don't have lots of people waiting to get onto the platform behind you, but the lines are actually also really long, and you're going through this very, very pristine, beautiful forest. Even if it's just one person going on this, there is always 2 guides to help them along. And they have very good high-tech safety equipment and go through all the procedures with the guests as well. And that includes all the waterfall rappelling and hanging bridges that they have all over the reserve. So these are 2 half-day excursions. So if you're staying at Pacuare for, say, 3 nights, there's definitely enough to do to fill those 2 days. And then if people want to stay longer or they want to do something slightly different, they do have a slightly alternative kind of menu of excursions, things like visiting an old kind of archaeological site or maybe another indigenous village. So they're really up for kind of exploring what else guests might be able to do in the area. There is a beautiful pool which was built about 3 years ago. This is one of Simon's favourites, if not his favourite pools of our properties. And it is self-heated with these special Italian tiles, which heated at a constant 26 degrees, which is really quite extraordinary. They have a beautiful bar here as well. It's beautifully lit at night with lots of candles and soft lightings. They're really lovely spa, offering a huge range of different treatments, and it's set within the jungle and just by the river. So it's got this really, really beautiful natural sounds and smells coming in from the jungle. And all the lotions and potions that they use here are produced locally and made with natural ingredients. So rafting out. So once you've had your stay, you then got an extra adventure that's waiting for you, which takes a little bit longer. So this is about a 3-hour journey, that 3 to 4 hour journey that takes you from Pacuare to Siquirres downstream, obviously. And the rafting is slightly more adventurous than the way in. So you're looking at rafting that is probably 2 to 3 grades 3 to 4, and then on the way you're stopping at this very large beach for lunch, and you're encouraged to get in the water and just really encouraged to have fun and experience some amazing rafting. Yeah, so you're also going through these incredible canyons and past these amazing waterfalls. The scenery is absolutely spectacular. The weather in this part of Costa Rica is obviously tropical, with highs of like 29 to 30 degrees, but that does really fall after dark as well, and can get quite chilly. Peak season is December to April, which is dry season, and June to August, which is holiday season essentially. And then in the rainy season, September to November, river levels are quite high, which makes the rafting in a bit more thrilling. And if they've had a huge rainfall upstream or even in this area, then they will determine whether it's obviously safe or not to do the rafting. And if it's not, they'll transport everybody out by car. And then when people are your Pacuare Lodge here, you're going downstream to Siquirres, and then from there their transfer takes people back to San Jose, or you can organize with the DMC to go on to different destinations around Costa Rica. So that is just after lunch, so that's kind of mid to late afternoon that people are normally doing that. I will be sending on this presentation to everybody in the follow-up, as well as this recording that you can just have on the background and hear me droning on. But what I wanted to highlight was a lot of their sustainability and conservation efforts that BOENA have done at Pacuare. I've got the same for Lapa Rios. These are essential bullet points, but it highlights their focus on conservation and sustainability, which they have done through various different programs. So one of those is conservation of wildlife, the jaguar in particular, with camera traps. They support local educational programs. They produce a lot of their own energy, among lots of other things, which are all really exciting. No less that they have this amazing private reserve. Okay, on to Lapa Rios. Now, actually, one thing I will mention is that from Pacuare down to Lapa Rios, again, if you have clients with a slightly larger budget, then this could be an option, is that they can organize charter flights from Siquirres down to Puerto Jiménez. Now, Lapa Rios Lodge, it has been a lodge that has been around for many years, so I'm sure you all know. Luis Roberto took it over, 2 years ago now, I think, and have done amazing things with it. But what makes Lapa Rios really stand out is that it really was a pioneering lodge for sustainability and conservation in Costa Rica. The previous owners put a lot of effort into kind of reforesting their whole reserve, which is the 1,000 acres private reserve, which created a wildlife corridor between Corcovado National Park and the forest around the farmland here and Puerto Jiménez, and also the coastline, which is incredible, really. And they've done a lot to preserve the flora and the fauna here. And they've got lots of camera traps for jaguars and other endangered species. And they've also got some ancient trees in their own private reserve. And they say that some of which are some of the only ancient trees of that species that exist in the world, which is quite cool. So the Lapa Rios Lodge is actually on the very southern point of Osa Peninsula, with the Golfo Dulce on the eastern side, and of course the Pacific Ocean on the left. on the western side, and then both meeting, which makes this area particularly interesting, not only for the wildlife in the forest, but also for the marine life. So you can either fly into Puerto Jimenez, which is about a 45 to 50-minute flight from San Jose, slightly longer from Liberia, and then a drive along the coastal road to Lapa Rios. Or if you've got clients who are more interested in taking it slowly, or if you want to encourage that as well, a bit of slow travel and less carbon, then driving from San Jose to Lapa Rios is about 7 to 8 hours. There are a couple of places you can stop off along the way to make it a really interesting journey, and it's just mainly quite remote Costa Rican countryside. So as you can see here, the hotel is set on this ridge up on the hill of the peninsula, which makes it an incredible location, because then all of the suites and the viewing platforms have this incredible view out across the canopy to the sea beyond. There are 17 rooms in total over 4 categories. So the 4th category is a new one, which I'll show you in a moment. First of all, the leading category are the 9 deluxe bungalows. So these are all identical in size. These were the only standard before Luis and Roberto took over the lodge. They're really beautiful with their 3 walls facing the forest. They're all made of netting, and they have fans inside, so that's something to be aware of. There's no air conditioning in these deluxe bungalows, but it does mean that there's a lovely breeze that comes up off the sea and across the canopy and into the rooms, and you're open to the elements. You've got all the sights and sounds from the forest coming into the rooms. Got this lovely decking area as well with hammocks, outdoor showers and lounges. So these 2 rooms are new. They're called Matapalo Suites, and they are they redesigned from the deluxe suites, which because these 2 rooms are up by the reception area. If anyone's ever been to Lapa Rios before, there were 2 rooms up by the reception area, which had quite a lot of kind of noise coming in from the road. They were also asked about accessibility rooms quite a lot, so they decided to recreate these 2 rooms to make them accessibility rooms, but also with concrete walls and glass windows and doors, so they've got air conditioning as well. So very comfortable, very spacious, and suitable for anyone with mobility problems. And then you've got the 2 Premier Villas and 4 Lapa Villas, which are further down the property, further down the ridge, further along the ridge, I should say. So the 2 Lapa Villas are interconnected through the balcony, but obviously they don't have to be. Very spacious, really beautifully designed, and huge bathrooms, lovely large terraces again. And these are numbers 14 and 15. Really bright and airy, really modern design. Again, you can see that the architecture and the design of some of the furnishings are from the Pacuare renting community. And these sofas can be made into extra beds, so you can sleep up to 5 people depending on the size of the little people. Yeah, really lovely spacious bathrooms. And then you've got the 4 Lapa Villas, which can sleep up to 5 guests, and these are the ones that have the private plunge pool. And the difference between the Premier Villas and the Lapa Villas is that they've got this cordoned off extra area with the sliding doors there. But yeah, really spacious, very luxurious rooms, and again with these incredible views out across the canopy to the sea beyond. This is just to show what their air cooling system is. So they don't have air conditioning in them, but they do have these systems called evening breeze, which cool the area around the beds and use up to 80% less energy than a traditional AC system. So they're really concentrating on how they can make the energy use kind of more sustainable in this area as well. I've got a lovely pool and decking, which is up by the bar and the restaurant area, and this is also where they have sunrise yoga sessions as well, which is something I did whilst I was there, and it was a really excellent start to the day. You know, the whole forest is waking up. So something else they've done is kind of redo a lot of the walkways and a lot of the terraces throughout the property. The hotel now has Wi-Fi throughout as well. That's something else to mention. So in improving the walkways that go all the way along the ridge that stop off at each of the suites, what they did is they actually brought up the walkways higher, which meant that it is essentially a more of an excursion in itself, more of a nature walk when you're going from one end of the property to the other, because you're at the same level as the wildlife, you're at the same level as the sloths, as the monkeys, a lot of the birds. And so it's a really lovely experience, really. And they've kind of renovated it all to make it non-slip, and they've also added in slightly a few more kind of viewing platforms as well throughout the property. The dining area has been fully refurbished, and they've got a new wine cooler as well, much like the one at Pacuare. And there are also options here again for private dining, either on different platforms around the lodge or on the decks of their own suites. They serve up proper fresh tropical food with again with amazing ingredients and lots of fusion twists. And again, the plant-based menu is also available here. This is the little bar area, which is near between the restaurant and the pool. This used to be quite like a dingy Wi-Fi hut before Lisa Roberto took it over. So now they've kind of recreated it into this beautiful new bar. So the included excursions at Lapa Rios are mainly the excursions that people will take on site in their private reserve. Again, you're given wellies and sticks on each of the excursions should you need them. The guides here are really quite incredible. They've all been working at the lodge for a number of different years, each like over 10 or 15 years. Danilo, who's pictured here, he's actually set up his own guiding school in Puerto Jimenez, where a lot of the Lapa Rios guides pass through. And his objective was to train up new guides from the local area, really, so that they didn't have to kind of import guides to the Osa Peninsula from different areas of Costa Rica. So his classes have really grown in size since they opened the school, and his school has a real focus on sustainability and conservation as well. So it really helps educate the local community about why it's important to conserve the local wildlife and the local forest as well. They've purchased these brand new Land Cruisers, as well as adapting some four-wheel drive pickups for excursions to be taken outside the property, all very comfortable. But yeah, really welcoming staff, amazing guides, obviously very good at spotting what needs to be spotted. You have early morning and dusk bird watching, obviously, which is essential really when you're here. There are wild waterfall walks which can be taken as self-guided trails. And then there are two distinctive trails within the reserve itself, which most guests will do during their stay. So you've got the Rainforest Ridge hike, as well as the Osa Trail. And these are both kind of half day to 2/3 of a day walk. One which goes slightly higher, the Rainforest Ridge, and the Osa Trail, which goes through the forest and kind of keeps to the ground. So you've got slightly different kind of vegetation in both of these different walks, but well worth it. As with any jungle lodge, night walks are offered, and great opportunity to see bats and insects, kinkajous, frogs, lots of amphibians. And this is what you take just in, you go out and then you come back just in time for dinner. There's a Matapalo tour, which takes guests down to the forest and nearby beaches. This is the southernmost point of the peninsula. This is definitely where the ocean meets the Gulf, so it's very wild. You've got sloths and macaws and toucans all over this forest, and capuchin monkeys as well. And so, yeah, well worth a visit. And this is also where they do a lot of the turtle hatching as well. They also offer quite more kind of sedate and child-friendly tours, such as planting a primary rainforest seedling tree to contribute to their reforestation program. The minimum age for children at Lapa Rios is 6, but they were accepting families with children of all ages over COVID if it's not full and if the parents agree to be responsible for their children. So I think it can be flexible. They also offer sustainability tours and talk about the whole conservation projects that they have going on, and a medicinal tour as well to show what all the different plants around the lodge can be used for around the reserve. And then any experiences which are taken outside the lodge, which are outsourced, are extra. So they have a long list of different excursions, but one of the main ones they have is the Corcovado National Park excursion. Now, this used to be taken by road from Lapa Rios up to the Corcovado National Park, where you then have a tour of the park and then come back. But this used to take up a lot of time. So now they are transporting guests to Corcovado National Park by sea. with this local outfitter and his boat here. And this only takes 90 minutes. So this has cut down the traveling time by an awful lot and means you'll be able to come back to the lodge in time for, you know, another excursion should you want to, or just to relax at the lodge. Corcovado National Park is one of the most biodiverse national parks in the world. It featured in the recent BBC Planet documentary with David Attenborough and I think it was Green Planet. And it spans 47,000 hectares. Jaguars and peccaries and tapirs, 450 bird species, and approximately 700 plant and tree species have been identified here. So one of the main reasons why you go to Corcovado instead of staying at Lapa Rios, you know, and just their reserve, is probably the fact that it is completely protected and there is absolutely no one else there, and the immense amount of biodiversity. But also it's one of the only places you can see tapir, and the sightings have been pretty good from what I understand. So yeah, it's well worth a visit on that one. And then the other excursions they can offer are surfing, stand-up paddleboarding, surfing lessons, horse riding, kayaking through the mangroves. And there's also waterfall rappelling as well that they can organise. The surfing here, I'd say, is actually really good because there's several different beaches that guests can access, ranging from Pan Dulce to Carbonera to Matapalo, and they all have slightly different waves. So you can be a beginner on the Pan Dulce beach with these long rolling waves, which are really beautiful and not at all kind of dangerous, and I have a really good surfing lesson here should you want to. They also have turtle hatching in this area. It's not always well known for its turtle hatching, and with the 4 different species of turtles. So you've got olive ridleys, green turtles, hawksbills and leatherbacks. And they all, well, the first 3 tend to nest between June and December or June and October, but the leatherbacks are earlier in the year, between March and September. Again, this is something I can send in the follow-up if you're interested. There is the whale and dolphin watching. There's a lot of whales that come into this area, mainly humpback, and you get megapods of dolphins in this area as well. Simon, our director of Senderos, he was lucky enough to see a megapod in this area when they went out on a boat, and it looked absolutely incredible. And then for a bit of an exclusive experience, Lapa Rios can organise an area for guests on the beach with drinks and refreshments, and lounges if guests want to do that. And that'll be down at Pan Dulce where the sea is safe to swim in, which is either a 10-minute walk or a small shuttle down to the beach. Now, what I think really stands out for Lapa Rios, having travelled most of Latin America over the years, is the immense amount of wildlife you are faced with when you're here. There is something to see every minute of every day. When you arrive at the hotel and you're up on that ridge and you're looking out across the canopy, you've got 4 different species of monkeys with their families and different trees. There are sloths everywhere, macaws, lots of macaws. Flying in pairs, you know, silhouetted against the sky. I saw kind of an araceli and a toucan when I first saw it. It was incredible. I thought it really blew my mind, essentially. So there's one thing to really kind of consider when you're proposing Ossa Peninsula, is that you will be guaranteed an excellent wildlife experience. And of course, you're woken up at 4 in the morning by the howler monkeys, by this extraordinary sound that resonates through the forest. And yeah, it's a really exceptional experience. This is their sustainability and conservation efforts. They are 100%, they rely 100% on their own energy, so they create that through turbines. They've got conservation projects and local community projects, so this is something I'll be able to send on to as well. Okay, sorry about this, we're running slightly over time, but I'll quickly go over some updates for Tortuga and Monteverde. So Tortuga Lodge and Monteverde Lodge both got taken over by BOENA Wilderness Lodges, as they are now, earlier this year. They've both been given huge makeovers, and I would say are the only high-end options in both destinations now. I think Tortuga Lodge more than Monteverde, perhaps. It has been developed into this really bright, welcoming, colourful place, with these bright colours, kind of reminiscent of like Caribbean Victorian age. With these beautiful large rooms, which I'll just go over quickly in a moment. But one thing that has very recently been developed is their new spa. It is a floating spa on a channel just behind the lodge. These are actually photographs taken with a mobile, so they're not professional yet, but it's just been built and it's just been opened. That's really exciting, and it's just really beautiful, different aspect for it. So the rooms themselves, as I mentioned, are very large and spacious, incredibly comfortable, all with air conditioning and fans and screen doors. So you can have your different option of whatever kind of warmth you'd like. I didn't actually need to use the air conditioning at all when I was there, just used the fan and the screen doors. And you've got the sunrise coming up across the lagoon there as well when you're staying here. So a lot of light and loads of space. These are the kind of the higher categories of rooms, so Miss Evelyn, Mr. Mishak. And then the Riverview rooms are the leading category, and these have very recently been renovated with their floor-to-ceiling doors out to their terraces. Again, they also have fans and air conditioning. They're just slightly smaller, but yeah, really still very comfortable and very spacious and very, very colourful. So really beautiful amenities here. And then, of course, you've got the Florentina Villa, which sits by itself on its own little peninsula with its lovely plunge pool, big master bedroom, and large extra space next to it as well. And then one thing I did want to mention about Tortuga Lodge is that they do offer the same excursions as most other hotels. They really try and take passengers out when there are fewer other tourists, because as you can imagine, in Tortuguero being such kind of a popular place to visit, there are quite a lot of other tourists around. But one of their excursions they have established is one called Laguna Cuatro. This is taking guests out quite a bit further south than the national park, and you kayak through these channels for a beautiful large lagoon. And here you come across a local community. Meet with a family who will show you what local life is like and share some of their local kind of cuisine prepared over a crackling wood stove, which is a really special experience if a guest wants to experience that. And then Monteverde, these are very, very new images, which we got about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, as they've just finished their renovations here. So basically, Monteverde Lodge and Gardens, again, it's a lodge that's been around for a very long time. It's a really beautiful lodge in the area with its own private reserve with a lot of walks you can do. These balconies here all used to be triangular, kind of sticking out like this. What they've done now is create these more essentially better balconies and terraces, all made out of wood, and they've made them kind of more spacious, really, and they've created a different category of room. They've completely redone the outside as well, makes it a little bit smarter. They've redone all the walkways, all with brand new wood and non-slip. And they've created this new deck around the pool. And this is what the new rooms look like from the inside. So they've got this new wooden paneling. They've got the terrace out the front. This is the two connect downstairs. With a little terrace. They've got a little river out there beyond the terrace, and then the Mott balcony suites are just above them, so the same size as the two connect downstairs, but with these lovely large balconies and comfortable chairs. Really spacious, lovely rooms. And this is what they look like from the outside. So really quite private, and you're surrounded by the cloud forest here as well. And then they've got this new suites called the Mountain Gem Suites, of which they have 5. So basically combined 2 of the downstairs and upstairs rooms to combine these much larger suites, which can fit in extra beds. They have this large king-size bed and very large terrace as well. They've got these on different levels and in different areas around the property. They've renovated the rooms below the restaurant, but they've also created this really beautiful terrace in the restaurant as well. That was brand new. And so the El Jardín restaurant has, this new terrace, and they've also renovated the indoors as well, kind of changed the colouring and the furnishings a little bit, to make it look slightly more kind of polished and a bit more upmarket. And then they've got this extra area called the vivarium for dining. Any guest can dine here should they want to. And there is, this is full of bromeliads and orchids and really interesting flowers and plants. So a really lovely place to eat. This is what it looks like from the aerial point of view. So there's lovely decking around the pool, and they are starting to develop their own. Well, this is the spa, actually. That's one thing to mention. This is also the new spa here on the left-hand side, and they're developing their own ice cream parlour as well, used from the milk that's produced in the area, because this area is well known for its dairy farming. So that is also very interesting. Okay, I have finished a few minutes later than I was hoping to, but thank you very much for sitting through that, for the updates on the BOENA properties. And I'd like to take any questions if there are any. So I'll just stop sharing there. And if you'd like to let me know if you've got any questions, that would be great. I think Lucy and Roberta are hoping to come over next year for Lata Expo. I know that, so do make sure you get an appointment with them. One thing to mention is that they do also have a 5th lodge in Monteverde, so Monteverde Cloud Forest Lodge, which I think opened just last week, and it is likely that we will be presenting on that at some point in the future. Any questions at all? Pop them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourselves. All right, I'm going to take that as a no. And yeah, I will be sending this follow-up to everybody. I hope everybody's okay and coping with the December rush, and I hope everyone's all right with everything that's going on in Peru at the moment. I'm thinking of you all, and yeah, I hope that everything's all right with all your guests. I will send the follow-up with the presentation and lots of fact sheets and things, and I will see you all in the new year for another webinar kind of series, and I hope everyone has a fantastic Christmas.